The bench hook is an old term that has gone through a lot of different meanings. This is the 20th century version of the bench hook. It hooks onto the edge of the table, and your stock hooks onto the back. They're great for cutting longer pieces of stock into more manageable pieces, as well as cutting dowels and thin pieces of stock to size. They're excellent tools that have survived even with newer powered machines. Forward motion handsaws easily work with this method. Hole saws are a different story. Today I'm going to show you how you can make this updated version that relies on a bench hole instead of the edge. For a history of these basic tools, I've got a more extensive video that will be popping up in the corner now. Now the way that this works is very simple. If you're using a pole saw, you're going to want to have your stock here so that you can pull against the fence. If you're going to use a push saw, you'll flip it over and hold your stock against the fence. What I really like about this is how simple it is to make and how versatile it is with different hand saws. To make this, you only need 3 different components. To get started, we're going to map out our holes that our bolt will go into. You'll need to pick the side that favors your hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'll be drawing a mark on this side as well as over here on this side. I've got my marking gauge set at 1.5 inches. Just going to make a line. Now I'll take an awl. I'm going to hit each one of these points. You'll need to measure now your bolt head. Mine is 1.25 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and start with 1.25 inch Forstner bit, and I want to go down 1/2 inch. So I've got my 1/2 inch mark on the side here, which will tell me how far down that I need to go, and that looks pretty good. Now if I check my hole, this is going to be a little bit too high, so I'm going to go down just a little bit farther. And that looks pretty good right there. The little divot that it created at the bottom is going to be a little too big for my 3/4 inch Forstner bit. So I'm going to use a 3/4 inch spade bit to drill this out. Because I've only got 1/4 inch left of this plywood here, I really just want to poke through the surface with it. I'm going to set this in here and I'm going to let it spin so that I find the center. I've made the center and I only want to go down enough that I'm breaking the surface a little bit. Now that I've cut the surface, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to drill it the rest of the way on the other side. And there I go, I've got my double hole, and this fits inside without any problems. I've gone ahead and cut this channel out by starting at 2 1/8 inch and then moving it over until my piece fits inside. If you're using a 3/4 inch piece, then you'll want to go 3/4 inch over. I would just do it very slowly to make sure that your piece does fit in there. You want it to be nice and tight. The next thing that we'll do is we want to make sure that we're obviously not going to cut the bolt. So I've given myself about 1/8 inch over. As long as your fence is as long as the body, you can measure in how much that was and then duplicate it on the other side. So I'll bring that over here and I'm going to make the same mark. And I want to transfer that line up to the top. I'll flip it around and I'll do the other one. Now I'll add my fence and I want to draw a line showing where the surface meets with this piece here. It's really important that we cut next to that line so that our cut will be straight and square to the body. Back at the workbench here, we're pretty much done. If I put my blade in here, you can see that I have a nice kerf to cut with. You might find that your back saw does not, so you might have to cut it a little bit. First, I've come over to the center of both sides, and I just kind of found the approximate center. It really doesn't have to be exact. And I'll find the center again between the 2 marks, which is going to be 5 inches. Now I'll use a countersink bit and I'm going to drill in so that it's below the surface. I'll add 1 screw. That's all it really takes, and really you shouldn't go with glue or anything else anyway. We'll do a few more things to finish this off. Now obviously we don't want to cut up this base as much as we can. It's going to happen, but you can prevent it by adding a piece of stock to the top and then cutting on that. It'll work for either pulling or pushing the blade, but it does keep it off the surface a little bit and allows you to preserve your surface just a little bit longer. Next, because every tool should have a place in your shop, I want to add a hole to this that I can hang it by. I've cut this down to size so that it fits right on the top. And I'd also like to drill a hole through that as well. And finally, I'm going to add this extra square block, which is the same thickness as the base. This will get a hole through it as well. That way in the future, if I have something that's really long, it'll allow me to extend this so I don't have to worry about trying to balance a board on top of this. I'm going to drill these all out at one time. I've added some very weak double-sided tape to 2 pieces, and I'm only going to go down, so I'm just barely poking through the bottom. And I'm using a 1/2 inch bit here. To finish things off, I round it over the edge. As well as adding a steel ruler to the top. Now, I might never use this and I might find it really cumbersome, but I think it's something that would be nice to have if I'm looking for kind of an approximate size. I'm cutting a dowel and you can just see how nice and perfect it is. I'll drill a hole in the bench apron on the side and we're done. Leave a comment and let me know if this is something that interests you or if something that you might do yourself. Thank you so much for watching.